Hi, I'm Abby. Dad has always been my best friend. I was in my freshman year at college and he owned a small recycling company. It didn't make a lot of money, but it was an honest business, and that was more important for me than rolling in it. Dad was always trying to control who I was hanging out with. Whenever someone asked me out, he would always put them through the ringer. I'm not gonna let you date just anyone. You're probably thinking that drove me up the wall, aren't you? No, on the contrary, I liked feeling so loved. By the way, have you liked this video and subscribed to the Private Diary channel yet? Please do that now if you haven't already. And then, one day, things went downhill. Dad's business wasn't doing so well. He never had enough money. He sold his car and mortgaged our house. But even that didn't help. I got a part-time job at a flower shop to help Dad and hoped that we were just going through a rough patch and luck would soon smile on us again. One evening, I was preparing the flower shop for closing. I'd already turned off our sign and was waiting for Dad to go home together. But then some pompous guy came rushing in. He had blonde hair and was wearing fashionable clothes. Sorry, we're closed. But the guy was in no hurry to leave. He took out a bunch of dollar bills and held them like a fan. Are you sure about that? I rolled my eyes and realized that I would get rid of the arrogant jerk faster if I just gave him what he wanted. Soon, he finally chose a bouquet and smugly handed it to me. You're too beautiful to work in this hole. Come on a date with me. I'll show you a sky full of diamonds. His cheap pickup line didn't work on me, and I turned him down. At that moment, Dad walked into the store. To my surprise, he suddenly got mad and told me to apologize. That's Larry. His father is a rich banker. If you married him, we wouldn't have to worry about money anymore. I couldn't believe Dad would bend his morals so easily. I really didn't want to go out with Larry, but I had to give him a chance to help Dad. Be nice to him, Abby. No promises. Larry drove me to an expensive restaurant and spent the whole evening talking about himself. I put up with his pretentious speeches, but I couldn't stand how rude he was to the waiter. That became the last straw for me. Just because your dad is a rich banker doesn't mean you can act like a jerk. There's no way I'd ever date someone like you. Bye. I didn't wait for the end of the date to leave. Dad was furious with me when he found out about it. We might end up on the street because of your principles. Call Larry and beg him for forgiveness now. Never! We fought all through the night. The next morning, I said I was moving out and slammed the door on my way out. No one was allowed to make me compromise my ideals. Not even my dad. For a few days, I stayed over at my friend's house, but things couldn't go on like that for long. I needed to find somewhere new to live. Luckily, I soon heard about a new online reality show called Dorm House. Several students were supposed to live together and try to get along. It was going to be broadcast live on the internet for a month. The last student to leave would get a prize, $1 million. Wow, Dad could pay off all our debts if I got that much money. Besides, I had nowhere to live at the moment, so I decided I had nothing to lose, and I applied to take part in the reality show. To do that, I had to fill out an online questionnaire full of weird questions. For example, for some reason, the producers wanted to know about my phobias and the problems I'd faced lately. That made me wary, but I honestly wrote that I hated it when there was a mess at home, and that a banker's son with no manners had taken me out on a terrible date recently. A few hours after that, the producer, Mr. Clark, contacted me and said I'd been chosen, and they were looking forward to working with me.
Congratulations, Abby. You are now a participant of the Dorm House project.
I signed a contract and I moved into the dorm. It looked like a large 2-story house with a swimming pool and lots of rooms. It didn't even bother me I was going to be filmed by dozens of cameras for the next month. Now, all that was left to do was to get to know the rest of the participants. Unfortunately, I was in for a shock. It turned out I was the only girl there. The other 7 participants were guys. This could spell trouble. All the boys were different. For example, Joe loved playing computer games, and Max liked boxing. The only thing we all had in common was the determination to win the prize. A cocky, handsome guy called Tyler stood out the most. He was obviously used to being a leader and immediately started acting like he owned the place. Let's throw a party! Guys, get the barbecue ready. And you, baby, make some lemonade for us. My name is Abby, not Baby. And don't try to boss me around. I went to my room and I tried to focus on studying, but it was useless. The boys turned up the music and it was way too loud. And then they started to argue about which one of them would win the prize. You should give up now. There's no way I'm gonna lose to you. I came out of my room to tell them to keep it down, and I was horrified by what I saw. It had only been a day, but the house already looked like a dump. I wouldn't survive a month in filth. I had to do something. I came up to the boys and I suggested we act like a team instead of fighting each other. Let's treat each other like friends for the next month and then split the prize money. They gave it some thought thought, but eventually agreed. Tyler was the only one who didn't approve of my plan. No way in hell. The fewer participants by the end of the show, the more money they'll get. Luckily, the other guys didn't take his side, and everyone agreed to live by the rules I came up with. No noise after 8 in the evening and no fighting. Everyone was supposed to clean up after themselves and shower according to a schedule. For several days, it was blissfully clean and quiet. After a while, Dad called me and said he'd watched several episodes of my reality show on the internet. He was furious I was living with boys. Enough of this nonsense. Come home and date Larry. I told you, never. I'll win the money that you need to pay off your debts. Don't worry about the boys. We've come to an understanding. They'll behave. I couldn't have been more wrong. That same night, there was a heavy downpour and lightning outside. As a result, the power went out in the dorm and it was plunged into darkness. I tried to fall asleep, but then I heard a terrified scream. Everyone looked out into the hallway and saw one of the boys running outside, shaking with fear. It turned out he was afraid of the darkness and could only sleep with a nightlight on. Even just a minute without it had driven him to a panic attack. I can't do this. I'm going home. He left the show that very night, and the next morning, strange things kept happening. We all came down to the kitchen and saw cockroaches there. They were everywhere, even in the fridge. Ew! One guy fainted when he saw them. It turned out he was deathly afraid of cockroaches. When the poor guy came to, he immediately packed up his things and left the show. Now that was suspicious. It was like someone had sniffed out the secret phobias of all the participants. And now they were using the information to get rid of their competitors one by one. Judging by how tense the boys looked, I wasn't the only one who thought so. It seems one of us isn't playing by the rules. How cunning. I told you, we can't be friends. This is a competition, not a summer camp. Then from now on, it's every man for himself. Everyone started shouting at each other again. I tried to calm the guys down, but that just made them turn against me. Why are you being so kind, Abby? It's suspicious. We're competitors. I bet you're the one behind this. Our temporary truce ended and the war began. The boys didn't even try to pretend they weren't messing with each other. Some of them endured, but some couldn't handle the pressure and left the show. I didn't have it easy either. The guys stopped cleaning up after themselves. Flies were flying over the dirty dishes in the sink. There were piles of trash on the floor. The pool had turned into a swamp. Living in these conditions was so hard for me. I gritted my teeth and I kept cleaning up by myself. But one day, they crossed a freaking line. I went to take a shower according to the schedule and was about to take off my towel when Tyler burst into the bathroom. Are you nuts? It's not your turn to shower yet. Get out! No one cares about your stupid schedule anymore. I'll take a shower whenever I want. You get out. Dang it! Arguing with that bastard was useless. I ran to my room and I was about to start packing when I got a call from Dad. Abby, things are bad. If I don't pay off the debt by the end of the month, we'll lose our house. Swallow your pride and apologize to Larry. His father could save us. No way. Trust me, Dad, I'm getting this money. I hung up, put my suitcase away, and decided to fight to the end. I'm done playing nice. It's time to accept the rules of this game. I stopped cooking dinner for everyone, washing the dishes, and cleaning up. No one else did it except for me. So the dorm soon turned into a dump again. One of the guys couldn't stand it and left the show. Great. I would get rid of all the competition. The boys did their best to turn the lives of the other competitors into a living hell. Imagine my shock when Tyler suddenly changed his tune. Look at yourselves. You're acting worse than animals. He tried to reason with everyone, but no one listened to him. Who are you trying to fool? We know you want to win more than any of us. Just admit you're scared. By the end of the month, there were only 4 participants left. The stakes were high and we could all feel the tension in the air. But I felt safe because I had more fans than any of the guys. A lot of people were rooting for me and betting on my victory. Joe decided to get Max to leave. To do that, he spilled oil by the pool. He wanted Max to slip and fall into the pool filled with smelly green water. But Tyler noticed the trap and decided to step in. He pushed Max away but fell into the pool himself. He twisted his ankle in the process. We called a doctor and Tyler was taken to a hospital. He had to leave the show after that incident. Tyler sacrificed himself to save me. He's a real friend. Joe, Max, and I looked at each other grimly and realized our feud had gone too far. Tyler was right. We're acting like rabid animals. Let's stop setting each other up and split the winnings at the end of the month. The boys agreed, and things finally calmed down, but not for long. The very next day, our producer, Mr. Clark, announced that since Tyler had to leave due to his injury, a new participant was gonna join us. Guess who walked into the dorm? It was Larry. My heart sank. What was he doing there? Hi, Abby. You'll regret turning me down. That sneaky worm quickly convinced Max and Joe to team up against me. Abby has a lot of fans, and she has the best chance of winning. Let's kick her out before she gets rid of us. Joe and Max immediately immediately forgot about our agreement and followed Larry's lead.
Apologize and say you'll be my girlfriend. Maybe I'll go easy on you then.
Keep dreaming. Larry thought I'd be scared of him, but instead, I got my second wind and came up with a way to get rid of all of my rivals in one fell swoop. To my surprise, Tyler called me and said his injury turned out to be minor and he'd already been discharged from the hospital.
I'm glad I left that terrible show. You should get out of there too, Abby. You were so kind and honest. Don't let money bend your morals.
It's too late for that. Tyler said he wanted to tell me a secret, but I didn't have time for that. I hung up, put my phone away, and got everything ready for my insidious plan. Soon, I shouted that dinner was ready and called the boys to the table. They eagerly grabbed the plates, lifted the lids off them, and screamed in horror. Instead of delicious lasagna, they saw disgusting worms I dug up from the garden.
Ew, I didn't sign up for this. Abby, you're a psycho. I can't stay here anymore.
They turned green, packed, and left the dorm. That meant I was the winner. Heck yeah! As soon as the filming was over, I was invited to an interview. I was very proud of myself for surviving a month in hell, and it felt like I deserved to brag a little bit. I was too tough for those guys, so I earned this money. After the interview, my dad suddenly came up to me. He looked distressed.
Abby, I shouldn't have tried to force you to date Larry. That wasn't right, and I knew that. Being a poor but good person is better than being a sellout. Now that I see what you've become, it makes me sad. Money turned my good girl into a villain.
Dad shook his head, disappointed. It got me thinking. He was the second person to tell me that I'd changed. It probably meant that they were right. Now I was mean and arrogant. Was I any better than Larry? I wanted to stay true to myself and decided to fix everything. That evening, the producers gathered all the show participants to hand me the $1 million check. I came up on stage to give a speech and get my winnings. I want to thank all the fans who were rooting for me, but I don't deserve this money and I want to give it all to Tyler. He sacrificed himself for his friend and he deserved to win. I came down from the stage and I handed the check to Tyler, who was staring at me with his mouth open. The audience ate it up, but what was even more important was I felt like I could respect myself again. I wanted to chat with Tyler, but then I saw the producer proudly hug him.
Well done, son. You played your part perfectly. I was right to choose you for the show. As expected, none of those naive children won the money.
What? Was Tyler Mr. Clark's son? The producer must have told Tyler about the secret phobias of the other participants to help him get rid of the other competitors. The blackout and the cockroaches? It was all his doing. I wanted to slap the living daylights out of them, but all I did was give Tyler a disappointed look and go home. When I arrived, I saw something terrible. Some people were carrying the furniture out of our house as Dad watched. He hadn't paid off his debts, and now we were losing everything. I came up to my dad, and I pulled him into a tight hug. I'm so sorry I let you down.
I'm the one who should apologize. You did the right thing when you refused to take the dirty money.
Larry called me to gloat again.
I'm giving you one last chance to apologize, and maybe I'll ask my father to help you.
To my surprise, Dad grabbed my phone and shouted at that arrogant jerk.
Abby has standards, and she'd never date a scumbag like you. Stay away from my daughter.
Even though we were penniless, at least we hadn't lost our dignity. At that moment, the loaders came up to us and said that someone had paid off all our debts. Dad's business, our house, and our furniture weren't gonna be taken away from us anymore. What? Do I have a fairy godmother?
I used my winnings to pay off all your debts. I'm not much of a fairy, though.
I turned around and saw Tyler. He was shyly smiling. Why did you do it?
You earned that money. Let me explain, please.
He said that his father made him take part in the reality show to control it from the inside. At first, everything had been going according to the producer's plan. The participants kept arguing over every little thing. But then I brought them together and that became a problem.
The audience got bored watching us. Dad made me plant the cockroaches and do all that other stuff so we'd fight and make the show interesting again. But then I realized things had gone too far and I tried to make everyone come to their senses. But by that point, no one was listening to me anymore.
When Tyler left, it became obvious to everyone that I would win, and the producer decided to invite Larry onto the show. Mr. Clark had expected me to give up and leave the show after that. After all, he had no intention of actually giving anyone the prize and was determined to do everything just so there'd be no winner.
What my father did wasn't fair. I wanted to right a wrong, that's all.
Tyler was a good guy after all. I couldn't stay angry with him, and I thanked him for doing something so noble. Soon, life went back to normal. Dad was happy to be back in business, and I focused on my studies. Tyler and I grew closer. His father decided to film the second season of the Dorm House show. We tried to convince Mr. Clark not to interfere.
You're too naive. The audience will get bored watching a fair competition.
Tyler and I decided to prove him wrong. We wanted to film a reality show of our own in which the participants respected each other and no one stooped to cheating. Do you think it'd be interesting? Would you watch a show like that?